What's good, y'all? It's your boy B-Phil. We back again. Yeah, Tech Life. Okay, so today what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna get started with the AWS CDK, and we're gonna do a very simple example. We want to go ahead and ease you in nice and slow with this infrastructure as code. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and start it up. So first, let's actually talk about what we want to build. You know what? Nothing's good without a little, music in the background. Let's go ahead and get our trusty media player here. And let's get some music going in the background so you feel the vibes. The vibes. You know what I mean? And you might be saying to yourself, man, why is he doing all this? Like, why? Why does he have to why can't he just get into the video? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm getting back into this. And it's just what I want to do. Now, as we continue to go into the future, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these quick videos for you. I'm going to cut these up and put them in playlists such that you can go ahead and absorb them at your own leisure. But for now, this is what we're going to do. So just give me a moment, okay? Don't click off the video yet. You know you want to see this. You know you need this. It's going to help you a lot, trust me. It's going to be able to, so the aim here is really to make your deployments of any of your applications. So let's just think of a typical small or medium business. So maybe you just got out of college, or maybe you're an old dude like me and you're like, you know what? I got to start building stuff. I got to start adding and contributing to the world. I got to see how maybe if I'm here, again, in 1,000 years, reincarnation. That's another discussion. But for the sake of the future generations, you want to go ahead and leave something that is going to be able to make the world a better place. And so I firmly believe that making these repeatable patterns inside of the cloud will help you speed up the development of that great thing that you're looking for. So this is what we're going to start by building. So we have this CDK. Okay, so let me take a step back. The goal here is to have a network where all of our resources can communicate with each other. And so when we have this particular infrastructure I have on the screen here, we're going to be utilizing Amazon Web Services, or AWS, to build out this particular platform. And what we're going to build out is a VPC, or virtual private cloud. And with AWS, let me turn this down just a tad. Sorry about this, y'all. Turn it up over here. Okay, so with this VPC, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to have compute resources or other services that are going to be able to facilitate the actions that are going to provide value to these businesses, yours or friends or anyone in your circle. So people have these needs to create a messaging system, or create lead follow-ups automated, or even just have compute to process information. Think AI, this whole ChatGPT boom. Maybe you're getting into that. This is the foundation to allow that to occur. And so first, we're going to have this region. This is going to be US East 1. This is in North Virginia. And inside of that region, we have the virtual private cloud, or the VPC. And so, like any network, you would expect to have an addressable networking space. Meaning, if you're live in some city, right, people need to be able to find you. Same thing with subnets or networking. So we're going to address this with the 10.0.0/16. Inside of that network space, we have availability zones. And availability zones are disparate data centers, or in simple layman's terms, data centers that are separated by some distance, or in even more layman terms, warehouses of computers that are separated by distance with their own dedicated power, cooling, and of course failover. There's a lot that goes into it. Let's not get into all of that. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to have two availability zones. Inside those availability zones, we're going to have a subnet private and public, so that anything in this public subnet can go ahead and reach the internet, which is where people are going to be able to access your next great service. And so this is the very simple breakdown of it. We're going to be creating all these components, from the internet gateway to the VPC to the public subnets. The public subnets here, complete with routing tables. So this is public routing table. These are both going to share the same routing table, and private subnets that are going to share the same routing table. Well, actually, this private subnets, they actually should have their own route table. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So let's go into our terminal and let's start the project. So we're going to go here, we're going to go dev, we're going to go CDK templates, and we're going to go recording. So as you can see, I have a pre-baked project here. Let's go ahead and clear that up. Let's go CDK init, and let's go language equals TypeScript. And we're going to hit enter. Cannot run an empty directory. So let's go ahead and make directory VPC starter kit. Let's go move into that cd VPC starter kit, and now let's init the actual project. Now the beauty of CDK is that this is just the infrastructure layer, so you can have the infrastructure layer live with the application in two separate folders. So maybe with this particular project we call it super cool app, and then in the super cool app folder we have our infrastructure folder, which is going to be the CDK, and then we have our application folder, which is going to be our application. Of course, in our application we might have a front end, a back end, so on and so forth. We'll go further than that as we continue with these series, but let's go ahead and just get the basics started first. So we're going to go ahead and open up our code editor. Go ahead and minimize myself here a bit more for you, and we're going to make this a bit larger. I wonder if I can do that. Okay, so we have the basic folder structure here. On the left hand side we have two main files I want to go ahead and bring your attention to right now. The VPC starterkit.ts. This is where our application is going to live, right? Meaning this entire infrastructure is represented as an application. That is the higher level container of everything we're going to build. So inside that application we have stacks, and inside those stacks we have constructs. So here we can see this new VPC starter kit stack, and what that is going to reference is this actual library, and this is where we're going to build out our VPC. So we're going to go ahead and erase this boilerplate code. Let's go ahead and we can go ahead and make this larger. All right, I think that's pretty good. That's pretty large. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started, right? So with CDK, you have what we call level 1, level 2, level 3 constructs. Level 1 constructs are CloudFormation at its rawest form, in its rawest form. So what CloudFormation is an infrastructure as code service provided by AWS that allows you to interact with the services that are underlying AWS. So it'll let you talk to the APIs, stands for application programmable interfaces, or let's just say it'll let you call a particular, let's say a service provider, and say, hey yo, I need you to go ahead and turn on the electricity, bruh, for my new apartment. And then they're going to go ahead and turn on electricity for your new apartment. So just think of, we have a direct phone line to a service to tell it to do some things. Very simple, right? Very, very simple. Or maybe it's complex. Who knows? Let's go ahead and get what we need, though. So we're going to need CFN. We're going to need VPC, right? Because first and foremost, we want to create a VPC. Inside those VPCs, we need subnets. So we're going to say CFN subnets. And for those subnets, we're going to need route tables. So we're going to say CFN route table. And we shouldn't forget, right? We had that internet gateway. In order for we need to be able to route somewhere, right? So we want to either route to the internet or to our own private network. Meaning, when you're inside of your house, maybe you have a private network, right? 10 dot whatever, 192.168, whatever, right? From your service provider, maybe you have Verizon, maybe you have a Google Fiber, or maybe you have CenturyLink, right? So you have your own privately accessible network. Maybe you want to have a VPN connection that connects the cloud to your own private network so you can have direct communication to your AWS resources. And so we're going to go ahead and set up a VPN tunnel as well. So let's go ahead and say CFN, Internet Gateway, CFN, VPN Gateway. And so when we have these particular connections, we have gateway out. Now we need to go ahead and form the connection between our resources and our private network. So we want to go ahead and say CFN VPN connection. And if I'm not, we need to capitalize these, VPN connection. We may need some more here, but let's just get started for now. Let's go ahead and build out these resources. So we need to think, and of course, as you continuously move along your journey, you're going to know what these variables are, because it's like reading a book, or it's like learning any new skill. The more you do something, the more you digest it, the more it becomes stuck inside of your mind. So what we're going to do first is we're going to say interface. And what we need to do here is we need to go ahead and provide some VPC props. So we're going to call this VPC props, and we're going to extend the CDK stack props. Now, all this is doing is saying we can go ahead and pass in some properties, right? So this particular stack, we should be able to deploy it wherever we need. So if we want to create another account, separate in some other region, then we want to be able to deploy that quickly, and we want to be able to customize it in some particular way. So when you think about props, think of properties or customizability or just configuration. All of those words are valid here. So what we want here is the CIDR, or let's say VPC CIDR, right? So this is going to be a string. Then we need a public subnet CIDRs, right? So we want this to be an array of strings, and this is going to slightly presuppose you know a little bit about programming. So we want some private subnet CIDRs as well, and last but certainly not least, we also need our customer gateway IP. This is going to be string. And that should be good for now. So this customer gateway is going to represent the IP address that your private network exposes publicly. So your ISP gives you a public IP address. You can go on the internet and say, what is my IP? And you can see that public IP address. And so that is going to be, for all intents and purposes, your customer gateway IP. So let's go ahead and import that as well, customer gateway. So let's go ahead and get started creating this stuff. So first, we're going to say create VPC. So we're going to say const VPC, and we want to set that equal to a new, right? Well, first and foremost, we need to think, are we going to reuse this anywhere again? Because maybe we don't want to store it. Maybe we just want to create it and then just let it be. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and reuse this VPC. So we're going to say CFN VPC. Now, we need to put a scope. The scope is this, right? It needs to be a construct. So we're going to name this VPC starter kit, and we're going to pass it some properties. Okay, fantastic. So properties we need, we're going to go ahead and use this autocomplete here, and we can see we need a CIDR block, right? And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to pull that from our props, and now that I notice this here, we need to go ahead and set this to VPC props, right? And we want these to be mandatory. So we're going to say props VPC CIDR. And before we go on, what I want to show you what I'm doing, I'm pulling these from props, but all we're doing is we're passing these into our stack when we create it inside of our application. And so what we want to go ahead and do, just to highlight this, we're going to say VPC CIDR, and we're going to go ahead and put a CIDR address here. So we're going to use the 10.network, so 10.0.0.0/16. Then we're going to go ahead and look at what else we got. So we need some public subnet CIDRs, and we're going to go ahead and say for our public subnet 10.0.1.0/24, right? 254 addresses there. And we're going to go 10.0.2.0/24. Again, another 254 addresses there. So now we want to go ahead and get our private subnet CIDRs. Let's go ahead 10.0.3.0/24. And finally, last but certainly not least, 10.0.4.0/24. Fantastic. And then we need to go ahead and specify our customer gateway IP. And this is going to be for now 1.1.1 as a placeholder. And so for some reason, and so what we did here is we made this an array of strings, but it should be an array of strings. Okay, great. So now we have a CIDR block. So now we're instantiating, or we're creating this VPC stack inside of our app with these parameters, right? So just think of, if you wanted to customize this a bit more, you could go ahead and switch the supernet to something different, 192.168.1.0. Maybe you want to /24 and you want to slice that up. Maybe you want to /20. You know, this is all customizable for you. So let's go ahead and enable the DNS host name. This is going to go ahead and give the resources in this VPC DNS host name. So we're going to say true here. We're going to enable the DNS support. And last but certainly not least, we're going to go ahead and specify some tags here. And so here we're going to go ahead and make this key. Oops, my typing isn't very good today. So this key is going to be name, and we're going to go ahead and provide a value, and we're going to name this VPC starter kit. Awesome. So now we have our VPC. Now let's go ahead and start creating our subnets. So we're going to say const. Let's go ahead and create our public subnet. So public subnet 1 equals, and to think here, are we going to need to yes, we're going to need to attach. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some. So we want to go ahead and subnet route table associations, because we want to associate our subnets with the route tables, right? So we want to say subnet public subnet 1 needs to be connected to public route table, and then vice versa, right? So private subnet 1 needs to be private route table 1, so on and so forth. So we're going to go ahead and define this here. So we're going to say new subnet. Great. As always, we need to pass in a particular scope. We're going to name this public subnet 1. And we're going to pass in some props. Now, we need to go ahead and pass in the VPC ID. So we're going to say VPC.attr VPC ID. So now we have VPC ID. And now we want to pass in an availability zone. And we want to go ahead and specify the region here. And so let's go ahead and say region, and let's make this a string. So we want to pass in the region here. And we're going to say US East 1. And here we're going to say props.region plus A. Awesome. And last, what are we missing here? We're missing something. Of course. We need a CIDR block, of course, y'all. So for some reason, it's not. Oh, you know what? I don't have my comma here. Awesome. So we want to get that good autocomplete, and this is where code editor like VS Code helps out. For you Vim knots, you all are much more intelligent than I. So What we're going to go ahead and do is pull from our props again, and we want to pull those public subnets. So we're going to use the first entry into that, and we know that's 10.0.1.0/24. All right, so we have everything for our public subnet here, and again, in traditional fashion, we're going to go ahead and bring these tags down, and we're going to go ahead and say VPC.logical ID, and we're going to add this, and we're going to say public subnet 1. Right, so we have these nice and neatly labeled. It looks like commas. It looks, what are we missing here? Tags does not exist in subnet props. Really? I'm pretty sure it does. String tags key value of a string is not assignable to type. What are we doing wrong here? Pretty sure. Oh, that's interesting. I could have sworn we could have put a name in here. You know what? I screwed this up. This is a CFN subnet, right? So let's make sure we didn't have it automatically import. Okay, we didn't. Great. You see here? There we go. Awesome. So we're just going to copy paste this, right? And we're going to call this public subnet 2, right? Let's go ahead and change these things here. We want this to be in availabilities of US East 1B, and as we know, let's go ahead and say VPC.logical ID plus dash public subnet 1. Let's go ahead and copy this, right, and let's paste that. Great. Public subnet 2. So now we have both of our subnets, both our public subnets at least. Now make sure that these CIDR blocks, you're using the correct ones. Now this is going to be our first private subnet. Private subnet 1. You see how many times I erased there? That was crazy, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do our private subnet 1 here. Awesome. So we're going to change this prop. We're going to use the private subnet CIDRs, right? And we're going to use the first one there. And then let's just go ahead and change our tag. Awesome. This is going great, y'all. So far, so good. We're getting into this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and change this to private subnet 2. Change that to 2 as well. And we want to deploy this in US East 1B. And of course, we want to use the 10.0.4.0/24. All right, so we're going to call this private subnet 2. And great, now we have all our subnets. So let's go ahead and create the route tables now. So let's go ahead and say create route tables for public and private subnets. Awesome. So let's make sure we're commenting this. Create public and private subnets so we can keep in our mind where we're at. So we're going to go ahead and say, with these route tables, we're going to need to reference them again. So we're going to say public RT. We only want one public route table. We want it to be connected to both of our subnets in both availability zones. So we're going to say new route table, CFN route table, obviously construct. So we're going to say public RT. And we're going to pass it some props. And now we need a VPC ID, right? Because we want to know where it's connected. ATTR VPC ID. Awesome. And I believe that's all we need. We have some tags. And of course, we're going to go ahead and set that key to name, and we're going to go ahead and specify that value of VPC.logicalID plus public, well, let's put a dash here, public route table 1 for future use in case we do decide we want to go ahead and split up these route tables. So let's go ahead and copy this, and let's make our 2 private route tables. All right, so we're going to say private RT1, and let's go ahead and make sure this name is congruent. Awesome. So we got our private route table. Whoops. All right, sweet. Let's go ahead and copy pasta this, because who doesn't like a good copy pasta, right? All right, so private route table 2, boom. Awesome. So now we have our route tables. Let's go ahead. Oops. Wow, my nose is running really badly. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and associate these route tables. So associate route tables with subnets. So we're gonna go ahead and connect the subnets to the route tables now. So let's go ahead and say new route table association. So CFN route table subnet route table association. All right, this we're gonna say public RT association 1, and we're gonna pass it some props. And so we want to say a route table, right? We want the route table ID. And we want to say public. Oops. Let's make sure. Okay, so we're gonna say public RT dot attr the route table ID, and then of course we need a subnet here. So we're gonna say public subnet 1 dot attr subnet ID. Fantastic. So now we have that association. Let's go ahead and associate the second public route, or excuse me, subnet. So we're gonna go ahead and say subnet 2. Now let's associate our private route tables. So we're going to say private route table associate 1, and we're going to change this to private RT1. Awesome. Oops, excuse me. Private subnet 1. Awesome. And then we're going to say private RT1 there. Awesome. Yeah, we are making great progress. If you remember, if you like this, go ahead and hit that like button, let your boy know. If you dislike it, tell me that too. Tell me how I can improve, because ultimately I want to be able to serve you all in a way that is most effective to you. I want you to know how to do this correctly in a way that is palatable, and that's going to get you to take action. Okay, so now we've associated the route tables. Now, of course, you might be thinking, well, how do we get to the internet? We need to create an actual route inside of the public route table to get to the internet. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and create our virtual private gateway and our subnet, which brings me here. Oh, we already have a VPN gateway. So let's go ahead and create our internet gateway first. So we need to go const, so create gateways to VPN and internet, VPN, internet, and customer device. Fantastic. Okay, so first, let's go ahead and create our internet gateway. Let's just call it IGW. Let's not get lazy. So let's say internet gateway, and then we'll say new CFN internet gateway. Pass it some context. We'll say internet gateway, and let's go ahead and say VPC. What do we need here? We just need tags, because we're going to have to associate this to our gateway. So again, we're going to say key, name, and of course our value is going to be VPC.logical ID, and that's going to be plus internet gateway. Fantastic. So now we have our internet gateway, and let's just go ahead and associate it right now. So we're going to say new. We need to go ahead and say VPC-VPN VPC gateway attachment, and let's go this. Let's say internet gateway attach, and oops, this needs to be a object. So we need the VPC ID, and then we're going to go ahead and say VPC.attr, and of course we're going to paste that ID there, and then we're going to need to pass in the internet gateway, and of course we have our internet gateway there, .attr, .internet gateway ID. Great. So now we have our internet gateway attached to our VPC. Now let's go ahead and create our virtual private gateway. So we're going to say const virtual private, let's just call it VPN gateway. VPN gateway has this name. So CFN VPN gateway, and of course scope VPN gateway, and let's go ahead. Oops. Awesome. So we need to type, and this type here is going to be IPsec1. So IPsec1, this is what's supported out of the box, and we need tags, of course. This is optional, so we're not going to define that. So let's just go ahead and define our tags. And in traditional fashion, name. The reason why I'm typing this all out is so you can follow along with me. You can type it out as well. So value, and we're going to say let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to say again VPC logical ID plus minus VPN gateway. And again, let's go ahead and attach this to our VPC. VPC gateway attachment, and we'll say VPN gateway attach. Put that comma there, and of course we need the VPC ID, VPC.attr, whoops, VPC ID, and we're going to need the VPN gateway, and of course we're going to use our VPN gateway .attr VPN gateway. Awesome. Now last but certainly not least, let's go ahead and create our customer gateway here. And we're gonna need this customer gateway for our VPN connection. So const customer gateway, new CFN customer gateway. And we'll say customer gateway. Awesome. So here, see what we need. We need the BGP ASN, and this is going to be 6500. We're just going to leave a default. We're going to use static routes on this one. There's more customization options if you're familiar with BGP, but for now we're just going to use the default for static. So if you recall, we have the IP address in our prop. So props that gateway IP, right? And of course we're going to need the type here, and this is going to be IPsec.1. Let's make sure I'm using these correctly. IPsec.1, and of course we want to go ahead and get our tags here too. We're going to say customer gateway. Fantastic. Okay, so now the final step here is to go ahead and create our VPN connection. Create VPN connection. Okay, so with our VPN connection, we just need to create a new VPN connection. So CFN VPN connection, this VPN connection, and let's go ahead and pass it some props. Awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and pass in our customer gateway. So customer gateway dot. Awesome. Pass in that ID. and we're going to type in our VPN gateway. So VPN gateway dot the ID, and I believe we need something else that I'll type IPsec.1. Awesome. So before we do something like this, I think it might be worth mentioning that, let's say VPN connection here, and let's go ahead and create a dependency to make sure that we don't have some of this stuff getting created before it needs to. So we're going to say VPN VPN connection. I believe that's it. Okay, so for some reason it just wants to, we're going to add dependency, and this is actually going to depend on the most important part, which is our VPN being attached, so, or our virtual gateway being attached. So we'll do a const here, and we'll say VPN gateway attach. So we want to depend on that, make sure we don't spin that up. So VPN gateway attach. Uh-oh. All right, so for some reason, here we go. All right, so we added that dependency, so it should start after the fact. Let's make sure that we didn't create the route yet. So when we go ahead and we want to go ahead and create the route here, let's go ahead and create, before we create the VPN connection, create route to the internet. And it's going to have a dependency on this internet gateway being attached. So we're going to say gateway attach, because we want to go ahead and make that a dependency as well. So let's go ahead and create the route here. So we'll say new VPC route, or excuse me, route, CFN route. See how many times it took me to remember that? All right, so we're gonna say internet gateway route. Label it for verbosity, and here we're gonna go ahead and use our VPC, or excuse me, we're gonna say route table. There it is, route table ID, and we want to say public rt.attr route table ID, and we want to say destination CIDR block, and this is going to be o.o.o.o/o, and we're going to say our gateway. Oops. Oh, let's go ahead and put this comma here, and we should be able to say gateway ID, and we want internet gateway dot HETR internet gateway ID. Awesome. And of course, as promised, we're going to go ahead and go const net gateway route equals new that. Let's go ahead and target that internet gateway route dot add dependency, and our dependency is going to be on the internet gateway attach. Awesome. So this should be it here, y'all. We should be able to go ahead and spin up this particular infrastructure. So let's go ahead and try it. So we're going to go CDK deploy. And this should take a few minutes. In the meantime, in between time, we're going to go ahead and get off camera, and we'll be right back. All right. Looks like we're still deploying here. You can go ahead and skip a little bit past this. This is going to be a raw upload, 42 minutes worth of footage, unedited, for the first time. We're going to continue to refine this. That's something I probably shouldn't have said in this video. It's all good. It's like I'm live, but I'm not live. But so it looks like our VPN connection is still creating. So while that's still happening, I'll go ahead and bring up my console just so you can go ahead and see what's going on. So I'm here on my AWS console, and so let's go ahead and look at CloudFormation. And so we have this in our shortcut here. Now this is the portal to you creating all of the services and solutions of your dreams. There's other tools out there, right? There's a lot of things that you can go ahead and use. I use AWS. It's quite simple to use once you get the hang of it. So we can go ahead and move this over here. Ooh, that was kind of glitchy. That resize. Maybe that's something to tell them about. Okay, so as you can see here, inside of our resources, we have this complete. All these are complete except for this VPN connection. Obviously, this VPN connection is probably taking a little bit longer to provision. In the console, we can see the creation of of all the particular resources in the order that they created in, with nice and neat timestamps. For outputs, you might want to go ahead and put outputs here if you're doing something like creating instances or Lambda functions or even containers, right? Maybe you want to output here to show your application load balancer, your URL to be able to reach those particular resources. We'll go over that later. So it looks like our entire stack is complete. Great. So if we go here into our code, it took 322 seconds here, right? So that's roughly 5 minutes and some change to go ahead and deploy that. And we can go into our VPC. We can go ahead and inspect everything that we just created. So let's go to your VPCs. We see here VPC starter kit, beautiful, 10.0.0/16. We go to our resource map, and we can see here we have our public subnet, public route table 1, public subnet, public route table 1 has that nice, neat internet gateway there. We have our private route table, our subnets to our private route table, beautiful. We can go into this particular public route table. Let's click that here. Let's open that up in a new link. We have that route. There we go to our internet gateway, and we can go to our internet gateway. We have that created as well. Absolutely beautiful. Let's go ahead and look for our customer gateway. Freaking awesome. Yeah, let's get it. Let's go. We have a virtual private gateway here. And then last but certainly not least, we have our VPN. Now, of course, you're going to have to configure the VPN on your side. But, hey, AWS got you, playa, with this download configurations for whatever device you may have. Let me have some pre-baked configurations, right? So I can go ahead and go here. Let's say, I'm just pretty generic. I'm generic, vendor agnostic, right? Let's go ahead and download this. Make sure you get the right IKE version there. But you can open this up and you can be like, oh, look, it has all the configurations that I need to configure my device. Who would have thought? Oh my goodness. So you got everything you need to go ahead, get up and running. Get out there, start building some stuff. This is your first step. Get that VPC rolling, get some resources in there, and start creating great things for the world. I hope you learned something today. It's your boy B-Phil. And actually, I want to get myself on the big screen real quick. I'm on the big screen. It's your boy B-Phil. And, get a little haircut there, brush a little bit. But it's all good, though. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you all learned something. And as always, just keep building stuff and keep doing great things in this world. Let me know what you thought about this video. Hit the like, hit the dislike, hit the comment section. Tell me how bad it was. Tell me how great it was. Tell me what you learned. And as always, have a wonderful rest of your week. It's your boy B-Phil. I'm out. Peace.